So I'm doing my first custom motorcycle. It's kind of a dirt track style. And I've got a lot of help on YouTube, different videos showing me how to do different things. And so I'm going to make a few videos to give back a little bit just on stuff that I haven't been able to find really easily online. And I'll tell you some of the sources I used for information on how to do some of the things I've already done that I'm not going to do videos on because they already do them really well. So this is a 1970 XS650, and the frame has been modified. Here's the motor. It is rephased. So you can see that the two lobes are now at about 90 degrees from each other instead of up and down. Putting the cases back together. I've never split cases on an engine before, so this is all new to me, but I wanted to take it completely down. Hugh's Handbuilt is a great resource for XS650s, and I followed his tutorial online on how to rephase a crank. Sent my cam to him to be rephased. That's under there. I'm not going to pull it out right now. So he's a great resource for that. So this is a 1970 XS650. So it has no starter from the factory, kickstart only, and it's 300 cc's of oil instead of 2,500. So I went with a more modern cam chain timing system. So that required me to, and I actually did, instead of 256 rods, I put the 447 rods. So I had a donor cam or crankshaft, which is now in pieces at the bottom of this. So I took the sprocket off that and the cam chain from a more modern tensioner, from more modern transmission, from a more modern, I think this is off of a 1980, so I could do the taller fifth gear. Had to change over the kickstart as well to interface with it because it's a different pitch on the chain. And I had Hugh at Hugh's Handbuilt do a 447 cam as well. So now my entire cam chain timing system is 447 chain pitch instead of a 256. But all of that information is available on hughshandbuilt.com or .org, I don't know. And he's super helpful, has lots of articles and stuff. So you can see I modified the frame pretty severely. Here is my friend's XS650 that he is just straight rebuilding, just tore it down. It was running bike. He tore it down. He's powder coating, replacing things, building it back up. So you can see here's the frame. This is a 74, I think. So there's the frame on his. Here's the frame on mine. You can see I cut everything. Basically, I kept the engine cavity the same, and I cut off everything from here back, converted it to monoshock. Sand bent the tubing. I do not have a mandrel bender. And so you can see, actually, things look pretty hand bent. They are not perfect. You can see my rear hoop is cocked a little bit, and my bends are not perfectly CNC machine, CNC matched to each other. You can see this bend right here has a tiny bit of a hitch right here, and another tiny bit of a hitch right here. I'm okay with that. This is a hand-built motorcycle, so I'm not going to be, I may try to tweak this rear hoop a little bit, make it a little more, you can see it's kind of angled down a little bit, so I may try to yank it back up. So one of the tutorials I'm going to do is on sand bending tubing, because I wasn't able to find very good information on it, and I figured out a way that worked for me. Another tutorial that I'm going to do actually is how to reinstall studs. I actually found it difficult to to reinstall the studs, and so I'm gonna shoot a little tutorial on the method I found that works to do that. And the other thing that I actually couldn't find online ended up being really simple, but I couldn't find it anywhere, was how to reinstall the shift drum. So here's another set of cases. I got 2 frames and 2 engines for like $200 out of some guy's shed. So that's where these came from. And so this shift drum mechanism, I couldn't really find any tutorials online, and I had totally stripped these cases. So I had taken the shift drums out, and I was worried that I wouldn't be able to get them back in. It turns out it wasn't that hard, but I'm going to make a tutorial on that just in case anyone is having a hard time with that. So I'm not going to make a tutorial on rephasing a crank. The information is on there. Hugh is awesome. Let's see, what else have I done? I'm working on a headlight mount, cheap headlight mount for a cheap headlight off of eBay. So back to the frame here. This is the rear wheel from I think it's a 2011 or 2012 Honda CBR 250R, and this swing arm is from, I think it's called an Ascot or something like that. I ended up buying like 3 or 4 swing arms to try to fit. Some guy online said that this one, which is a Kawasaki GPZ 550, bolts right in. It does not at all. That's the stock swing arm. So this is actually an Ascot. I had to redo the mounts for the pivot. This was a bi, and had bi shocks, you know, on each side, so convert it to a monoshock. That's a shock off of a FC07, FC7 or FC6, I can't remember. It's a little soft, so we're going to have to see, that may need to be replaced, or we'll figure that out. And I shortened the swing arm a little bit to make it, it's 1 inch longer than stock right now. The pivot point is in the exact same place. What I did was I put a rod through the stock pivot points, machined some bungs to be out here, welded like 3 pieces from the frame to keep them in place. Took that rod, made sure it could slide through everything really easily after I welded it and everything, and then cut out the stock bushings and machined new ones, put them back on that rod, spaced them all correctly, fabricated these spacers, or these gussets, to trap that piece. So it's actually in the stock location of everything. This tank is actually from a Suzuki dirt bike from the 80s. I think it's called the TS125 or TS250, something like that. It might be a little small. Everyone thinks it's a little small, but I kind of like it. It was super cheap. Has a big dent in it. Those are just some homemade stingers that I'm going to yank on with a homemade slide hammer in a bit. And there's the gussets for the tank mount. This piece I made removable, and on bolts I'm going to put all my electronics and stuff there. I'm also probably going to have to put the rectifier regulator somewhere in there. Then the front end I've done a bit of work on. So it's actually off of a 2006 or 2007 Suzuki GSR 600, sorry. And the wheel, I do not like tri-spoke wheels. So the front wheel is off of an 06 or 07 R6. So it took some machining. I had to machine the inside of the rim of the hub because they didn't make a bearing that fit the GSXR axle and the R6 shell. So I think I had to take 3 millimeters off of the shell, and then actually the bearings that are in there now are Ducati bearings. And I think they're on most of the Ducatis, the Ducati Monster and everything. And then I had to space these rotors out, so the rotors are R6 rotors as well, and I had to I bought these 2 millimeter spacers. I don't know if I can really show them that well, but there is a spacer. Yeah, see that? This aluminum piece right here. So that is not normally there, so that's a 2 millimeter spacer to space out the rotors to fit into the stock calipers. And these are just stock calipers off of a GSXR 600. And yeah, welded on it tabs. Those are my steering stops. I haven't trimmed them down yet. Definitely going to need a damper on this. The rake is a lot steeper than stock, so I don't want to be fighting it. And yeah, that's about it so far. The rear hoop actually machined in a groove. I'm gonna try. We'll see how it works. I've seen it in some custom builds, and I think it looks really good, but I don't really know how it's gonna work. But got one of these LED light strips, and it'll actually be inset into the groove a little bit. So hopefully it'll work and look good. If it doesn't, then I'll figure something out. So yeah, like I said, this is my first ever custom build. I am not a good TIG welder. All this TIG welding is done by a friend of mine. I'm not a good machinist, but I've been learning on YouTube from lots of videos from lots of people. And also, now my friend moved to Virginia, so I'm having to do all my own TIG welding. And I'm not a good TIG welder, but there's lots of videos online, and I'm getting better. I highly recommend getting a, there's a website called weldingtipsandtricks.com with Jody, a guy named Jody something. Definitely get the stubby gas lens kit that he sells. It turned me from a super shitty TIG welder into just a crappy TIG welder, but it has a diffusion diaphragm in there that gives you a lot better gas coverage, and it actually makes it easier to weld. So I highly recommend that if you're having any problems. And of course, I got a bunch of my parts at Mike's XS. And yeah, just thanks to all the people who post videos online, videos and articles telling how to do stuff. I've used a lot of it, and I'm just going to produce a few videos of my own to you know, help people who may have a difficult time finding some things. So thanks for checking into my channel. Bye.